Morning to everybody, and thank you for joining our first instalment of our 4-part webinar series. This series is all about helping you get the most and more out of Microsoft 365 and your licensing, whether that's improving how your team works together through collaboration, simplifying things like day-to-day tasks and processes, or just making better use of the tools that you already have that you're probably paying for as well. We'll keep things practical and straightforward during the series, during the first session. Hopefully we're going to go through some demo material. The demo material can be a little bit sort of up and down, so what we might do is send that as part of a separate recording as well. So we'll see how we get on with that. And then we're going to be covering more of the advanced aspects of 365, such as Copilot and Power Apps later on in the series over the course of the next few weeks. So the first installment today is all about enhancing your business with the power of Microsoft 365. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Just do quick introductions if that's all right. So my name's Gavin Turnbull. For those of you that I've not met, I'm a managed services consultant. Get my words out here at Central Technology. Mike.
Yeah, I'm Mike Owen. I'm a modern workplace director with Yoko 10. So Yoko 10 are part of the Central Technology group, and we specialize in Microsoft 365 and all the technologies under that banner.
Brill. Just a little bit of housekeeping in terms of today. So we've turned cameras and microphones off for everybody so that we can filter questions through the Q&A section of your Teams application. And again, you can ask questions after or via email as well, but if you want to use that for today, we'll gradually work our way through the questions if we've got time during the session, and there's also an opportunity at the end to ask some questions and go through some questions as well. We're going to send follow-up details following the webinar today with a recording, so you can share with your colleagues and peers. And if you want to book any one-on-one consultancy time, a discovery call with myself and Mike or Mike, then please get in touch and we can arrange an initial discovery call to find out what you're sort of trying to achieve through 365. So just a quick intro for those of you that don't know CT, and then I'm going to shut up and let Mike get on with the webinar. So in terms of CT themselves, we've been founded since 2002, so we've been going for 23 years or so now. As a managed service provider, we're trusted by over 37 legal and 50 professional services organisations across the UK. And we're supporting organisations across the UK from our head office in Derbyshire, in Chesterfield, and we've got additional branches in Leicester and Dorset as well now. We all sort of pride ourselves on our strategic partnership approach, so we work with our clients not just to react to their IT problems and fix problems as we go along, but to also work strategically with them, help plan out their IT roadmap, their IT strategy in line with their business plan. So we work at that level in terms of the relationship with our customers. With that, we provide IT support, cyber security services as well, which is a big part of technology now, cloud solutions, and then communications like phone systems, mobile phones, and internet service provision as well. So I'll hand over to Mike now, just to go through the agenda and take you through today's webinar. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Gavin. So this morning we're talking at quite a high level about everything within the Microsoft 365 license. So give a bit of a brief intro as to what you actually get when you buy Microsoft 365. We'll then move on to a little bit of a comparison, because depending on the license level and also the number of people in your organization, you might have a small business premium license, but there's other licenses available. So the most common one being an E3. And so we'll just have a little comparison between those two. And then finally, we'll sort of move on to a bit of Teams for collaboration. We'll do some demos along the way, as long as my demo machine behaves. It's been a bit problematic this morning, but we'll look at some of that collaboration, show you a bit of a teaser of some of the compliance sort of possibilities that are coming in the next week's webinar, and also touch on a couple of applications that you may or may not be aware of that's included in your license. So Effectively, when you buy either an E3 or a small business premium license, you're getting an awful lot of applications included within that per user license fee. So we're probably all aware of most of the applications that are sitting on the top line. So all of your Office applications, whether it's Word or PowerPoint or Excel, they're included in that license. But we also have the servers, the services that sit behind that. So Exchange Online for managing your email, SharePoint for file storage, OneDrive for personal file storage, and then Teams for quick communication, for messaging, for meetings and webinars, things like that. Then on the second row, there's a few groups of features and services that we have available. So the Power Platform Suite, we're actually going to cover in more depth in a couple of weeks' time. But effectively, this is a set of tools that help your organization build custom applications, custom workflows, integrations, and it's all done in a very user-friendly sort of way. We no longer need sort of big development teams in order to create mobile apps, for example. So we'll show you that in a couple of weeks' time. We also have this product called Intune, and Intune is how my devices are managed, whether that's the laptop that I'm using today or the phone that I use. It can be a corporate device, it could be your own personal device, but Intune has got a lot of capabilities in there to protect corporate data, regardless of which device we're actually using. The next pillar is this idea of purview. We'll be covering it next week in more depth, so I won't go too deep, but it's concerned with your data security and compliance. It has things like retention labels in it. So if I mark a file, say a finance file, as being retained for a certain amount of time, I want it to actually be removed automatically after like 7 years' time, or whatever the schedule might be for your organization. We also have this idea of sensitivity labels, which I'll show in a demo in a moment, and that allows you to protect your documents. So if I send a document on an email to somebody, only that person can actually open it. Even if they forward it on to someone else within the same organization, they won't be able to open it based on the rules that I set when I send it to them. And the last one on that middle row is this idea of the Viva suite. And Viva has been around a couple of years, but it's effectively some rebadged solutions to work within teams. So we have this idea of Viva Insights. Show me who I work with closely, or show me tasks that I've committed to, even if it's within emails where I've said, I'll get back to you by the end of the week, something like that. Viva Insights will be able to pick up on that. There's also Viva Learning within there. So if I've got multiple learning platforms and I want them accessible from one easy to use place, I can have this curated learning platform that connects into lots of different third-party platforms if I wish. And then on the bottom line, we've got a number of applications. There's actually more applications. I couldn't fit them all on the slide neatly enough, but I'll show you bookings in a demo later. And this is an idea of being able to kind of open up your calendar to say, I want people to be able to request meetings with me and to be able to automatically book it. You can still sort of set what time you need to prepare and what time you need after that meeting in order to write up your notes or do any follow-on tasks. But you can then advertise your bookings page as part of your email signature maybe. We also have Stream. This is our video playback platform. And obviously multimedia video in particular is becoming such a prominent technology in our consumer worlds. This is Microsoft's solution in our professional worlds. So be able to have a video played through Microsoft Stream that is then played at a different frame rate, depending on whether I'm connected in the office on my laptop or if I'm walking around with a 5G connection on my mobile. It will still give me the best experience for that video. We've also have forms, so this is electronic forms. So doing away with the paper as much as we can. I think everyone's talked about paperless offices for 15 years at least. Forms in a data capture application where I can create short surveys to go within the organization if I wanted to, or have new customer forms that I request my clients to fill in. We can then use other tools within this toolbox, like Power Automate from that Power Platform suite, to then take that form and process it somewhere, notify people, add the data to something else. We then have a whole bunch of other products, such as Planner, so for task management. To-do is personal task management as well. There's a product called Sway that gives you web-enabled presentations that will work regardless of which device we're on. Clipchamp as well for video editing. So there's a whole load of tools that are included within your license. There's also a whiteboarding tool. So obviously everyone doing sort of remote virtual meetings through Teams, we still want to have that whiteboarding experience. So whiteboard gives us this unlimited sort of canvas on which we can sort of draw, we can collaborate together, so everybody can contribute at the same time if we wanted to. Now, whilst we've got all of these applications available to us, Microsoft leave everything turned on by default. They want you to use everything that's in the box. They want you to have value for money. But obviously that's not necessarily the best thing for your organization. So we have to look at some of the governance side of things. And if we don't, we'll end up with this idea of unmanaged sprawl. So when we're working on file shares and we have folders within folders and sort of multiple shares going on, we don't want the same thing to happen within our Office 365 tenancy. So we have to look at how we're sort of managing some of these applications. If I go to Teams and I create a new team, that also actually creates a SharePoint site in the background. If someone else creates the same SharePoint site, well, now we've got data in two different places. So we really have to look at how we're controlling this. This unmanaged sprawl is potentially hurting the security of your content, potentially sort of affecting productivity because we've got different versions in different places, things like that. And also potentially adding to the cost of your infrastructure, because although you get storage included as part of your license, if you start to exceed that, now you're having to pay for it as well. Interestingly, there was a stat from Microsoft, it was a few months back, but they alluded to the fact that organizations are adding around 200 petabytes of new content to SharePoint every month. And that actually equates to more than 2 billion new documents being added on the average workday. So a huge amount of content goes into this platform. But in your little sort of corner of that platform, you need to sort of understand how you want to manage that sprawling content. We also need to look at the kind of the secure side of things. And obviously, being hosted in the cloud, that unlocks that collaboration a little bit more. In theory, gone are the days where we attach a document onto an email and send it to someone for them to sort of apply their comments, revisions, and send it back to us. With SharePoint, with Teams, we've now got this ability to securely and safely collaborate with people within the organization, but also with the right controls in place with third parties, with people outside of our organization as well. But we've got to try and balance the restrictions that we put on it from a compliance or an IT perspective with the ability to actually use that technology, because if we're restricting it down too much, we make it too difficult to use that collaborative features. People will just resort back to what they know, and we'll end up with an increase in attachments on email again. So IT admins, it's really about trying to find that right balance between the security side of things and the collaboration side of things. And then the last sort of pillar of managing this environment is all about user adoption. We want to make sure that everyone has got the right tools to do their job. We don't really want people signing up with their credit card to kind of unauthorized tools. So we need to sort of make sure that we've got the right training and awareness in place to say, here are all the tools that are available to you already, and here is how you can use them as part of your job. If we don't, well, that insufficient training is just going to lead to sort of frustration, low adoption, and resorting to what we all know as kind of shadow IT, that going off to a third party because I'm used to it. I've used it before, but it might not be in line with what our organization wants us to use, or the compliance or regulatory requirements that we have to adhere to. So this is where that governance really comes in. So having governance is all about that kind of the rules, your policies, roles within the environment, and procedures, everything that goes around the use of the suite of tools. It's really that kind of rules of engagement to make sure that all the content is secure and organized. So having that really good strategy is going to keep the data safe from hackers. It's going to keep your sensitive information protected. And as a workforce, it's going to help us work a little bit faster and sort of more effectively, because we know what we can do, what we can't do, whose role is it to help us create a new team or a new site. Should I be able to do it myself, maybe through an approval process? So it's really kind of putting those rules in place, those policies. It's to protect everyone within the organization effectively. So in terms of the areas we would normally look at from governance, we want to make sure that we're using the right tools for the job. If we look at task management, for example, even within Office 365, there's 6 or 7 different ways we can do it. And they're starting to become a little bit sort of more joined up. But we've got tasks in Outlook. I've got to do for my personal tasks. I've got Planner for group team tasks. I've got Project if I really want to sort of scale up and look at big programs of work within the organization. But we don't have to have all of these turned on. Like I said at the beginning, Microsoft wants you to have it all turned on. They want you to use it, but it might not be right for you as an organization. So understanding what tools to use and when to use them is really going to help people sort of know what they should and shouldn't be doing. We've then got this idea of those roles and responsibilities. So whose responsibility is it to create a new team? Should people be able to do it themselves or not? Whose responsibility is the data within those teams or within those SharePoint sites? Because if we've got things like metadata in there, tagging, so I know what that document is about, the topic, things like that, that will then feed into some of our purview controls. Go and apply a sensitivity label to this because you've tagged it as financial data or whatever it might be. But that responsibility for tagging lies with the people that use the data itself. We can go and apply certain policies to teams, create a policy for SharePoint site namings and groups so that everything from a back-end perspective, I can see where that team was created, which department owns it within the business. I can enforce some of those metadata tagging conventions as well if I wanted to we've got the ability to create templates. So we can always force metadata to be filled in if we need it to. We then need to look at that data lifecycle. Documents, Teams, SharePoint sites, they all go through a similar sort of process. We always have that creation, we have a useful phase where they're being used, edited, updated, and then we have a kind of archival followed by potential deletion. And it's really understanding what life cycle your files go through, and different files within different departments will obviously have a naturally different life cycle, but then using the tools to help guard against deleting too quickly or not deleting at all. Historically, we'd go into organizations and look at retention and they go, we've got this wonderful retention policy over here. Like, well, how do you enforce that? Right. We rely on people to delete it. Well, that will never happen, I'm afraid, because unless you've got a big team of people combing through data to forcibly delete content or archive it somewhere else, people have got too much to do already. Going through that just won't happen if we are relying on people in the organization to do it. So that's where the idea of retention labels and purview really sort of come into their own. We've also got a whole heap of different policies that we can sort of configure, whether it's that naming policies, communication compliance policies. Can every department talk to every other department about sensitive information? You might not want that, particularly if you're dealing with kind of an ethically walled matter within your firm. So you can put those sort of policies in place to prevent it. We can also look at creating expiration policies. So if I've got a site specifically for a piece of work and it hasn't been used for a while, I can check with the owners to see, is this still in use? And if it isn't, let's go and automatically archive the data, move it somewhere else, and delete the team. Otherwise, we end up with a left-hand bar within Teams that is filled with teams, and we don't use half of them. So it's really trying to configure some of these to work around how you work as an organization. So in terms of a comparison of the different licenses, there's kind of two main licenses that a lot of organizations will use. There is either this idea of an E3, so for enterprise organizations, or we're looking at a business premium license for smaller organizations that are less than 300 people. Now, typically, depending on the type of E3, you could be paying sort of £30 a month per person, whereas like a business premium license, that's quite a lot less, sort of £15 per person per month. So it's understanding, what license is actually right for your organization. In terms of the applications, most of the applications you've got very similar access. You've got the same applications for both licenses, broadly speaking. The one sort of caveat there is Intune. So it gets included within your business premium license, but not within an E3. It becomes an add-on license for those E3 organizations. But generally, these are the kind of the main differences that we have between those licenses. We've got a cap on the number of users within Business Premium. You're capped in terms of your mailbox and personal OneDrive storage size. And then on the compliance sort of security features, you have more sort of basic level rather than the kind of the all singing, all dancing side of things. So that's why these E3s are geared towards much larger organizations. Right. Let me just share my demo environment then, and We'll have a quick look at some of the compliance side of things. Is that going to be too big? Let me just swap some screens around. Okay. Okay. Lovely. Okay, so what we're now looking at is just a document within Word. We should all be fairly familiar with that. But what we've got at the top here is this classification in the header. And this classification is an example of one of those sensitivity labels from Purview. So a sensitivity label controls at an organizational level what I, as a user, can do with this. This overrides permissions. So if I've got permission to access this document, I've got permission to edit it, but because this label says internal only, if I try and put this on an email and send it to somebody else outside of my organization, they won't be able to access it. Sensitivity labels basically wrap around the content to say, these are the permissions that this document has. So when you've got sensitivity labels configured, we'll have this option appear at the top here, these sensitivity labels that are available. So here I can see I've got this idea of a public label, internal only, restricted access, various things like that. So if I say, well, actually, I need to send this to somebody outside of the organization, so I'm going to change the label. I'm going to downgrade it to public. Now, because of my permissions, I'm not actually able to do that. I'm still able to edit this document. So I can come in here and make some edits over here, and it'll save it, but I'm not able to change that sensitivity label. So within these sensitivity labels, you can configure permissions, you can restrict the fact that if I shared this with someone outside of the business, they can't print it, or they can't copy the contents and paste it into another document. So it's hugely sort of effective, because when I say that it travels with the document, I put this on an email and I'm safe in the knowledge that even if I've done it accidentally, because it's internal only, no one else is going to be able to make the changes to that document. So if I just open up another brand new document here, and some, no, it's not that, it's nine, is it? Okay. So I've got a brand new document, and I can see there's no label at the moment. And if I say, well, I want to label this as internal, now that label has gone and been applied. I can see it's got this little circle around it, and I can also, sorry, little border around it, but I can also see at the top that it's got a sensitivity label of internal. Now, if I change that, I can downgrade it to other labels if I wanted to, but the action of doing that downgrade is actually stored within an audit log. So if this was internal and I then sent it sort of by changing the label to public, the compliance team would be able to see that I've made those changes on that particular document, to be able to understand why was that actually done. So if I now go and switch to a new email, and I say, well, I want to send myself from my demo environment to my actual details, employee details, and I'm going to send a social security number, national insurance number sort of style to it. Now, what's happened here is that within Purview, we have this idea of data loss prevention. And when I've configured data loss prevention, I've said, I need you to look out for personally identifiable information. So it's recognized that I've got some sensitive content here. You can see right at the top where I've got these policy tooltips that are saying. Now, what I could do is say, actually, I want to override that. And by overriding it, that is also tracked within the audit log so that people can then see, well, why did you send that out to the organization? But we can also set up rules to be able to say, well, actually, remove external participants. Even if I didn't have an override, I can say, send that content anyway. Well, now it would automatically remove my external email, but it would allow the email to go to the internal recipient in that case. So that's kind of two of the data loss sort of purview ideas. And if we switch over to Teams, and within my within my recruitment channel here, I've got a number of files and folders linked to sort of job adverts, and the view that I'm seeing here is going to be the same as the view I could set up within SharePoint. All of the files that we save within Teams are actually stored into a SharePoint site. So I could go directly to that site if I wanted to. I could share just files with people subject to permissions so that they don't see my conversations from Teams, but they do need access to those files. But here I can see that each of these files has got a sensitivity label of public, but they've also got a retention label here. So I can see that these are job profiles, job profile, employee. Well, this one doesn't seem quite right. So I'm able to look at this and say, well, I need to relabel this. I need the same retention label to be applied to all of the content here. Okay. And I can go and look at all of the available retention policies that I have in my organization. So this is where you could align it to that retention schedule, your retention policy that you've got written down but not quite sure how to enforce. This is where we can start to say, well, I want to sort of go and locate the appropriate HR policy. He says, I can't remember what the other ones were, or job profiles. So job profiles, I'm going to retain these forever. So I want to sort of relabel it as job profiles. Even better. So what we can also do with Purview is declare a file as a record. So a record makes that file immutable. Imagine you've got a contract where your client has signed the contract, but then you were still able to edit the clauses. That's no use. So by declaring it as a record, we're now able to say, okay, well, I don't want anyone to be able to change anything about this file, even if it's metadata that is associated to that file. So hugely powerful in terms of your protecting documents. Even though I've got edit permission to these documents, by declaring as a record, that now makes it immutable. So if I look at this other document here for my finance admin job, and I want to change that one to being job profiles, okay, that's now gone and updated the retention label. So this document will now be held in line with the policy that I've defined for job profiles instead of management information in that case. let's switch back to the deck. Okay. Right then. So you are probably more than familiar with Teams. So in the last, it's been around for a little while longer, but certainly in the last 5 years, there has been a huge uptick. The pandemic forced a lot of organizations into using Teams to facilitate that remote work. I literally had a conversation with an organization in February 2020, and they told me they would not be ready for remote work for another 5 to 10 years. And then all of a sudden, actually, there is a problem here. So I've just seen one of the Q&A questions. In the confidentiality settings of documents, would users be able to take a screenshot or snip of the information, or would this protect against that also? So you can actually configure that different people are able to do different things. So if I'm the owner of the document, I want to be able to do anything with that particular document. So within the sensitivity label, I can say Michael is the owner, allow overall access. But I could also then say, well, anyone outside of the organization cannot view the document, cannot take screenshots, cannot copy and paste, cannot print, cannot save to their own device. They've got to work within our environment. And so we can enforce all of those. Interestingly, if you don't have view access to a file and you try and share it with someone on Teams, it shows that person a blank screen. You literally get a black screen, and you could be talking away merrily and no one else can see what's going on. So there's quite a few protections that go into that. It's very clever. But sorry, just coming back to Teams then. So basically, we've got these kind of three core pillars. We're obviously quite used to using meetings and messaging for that kind of rapid conversation. I want to try and get a quick answer from someone. I can see that they're online. Teams are the right way to do it. We do talk to organizations in that kind of what to use when communication strategy, because I could send an email, but then that's more of a non-urgent form of communication. Should I send a Teams message instead? Should I put it as a post on an intranet? It's a news story that I want to stay there for a long time rather than getting lost in someone's Teams or inbox. So understanding what to use when is quite critical. The second main pillar is obviously the collaboration side of things. The reason Teams was created was to try and bring together all of your different applications into one easy to use solution. So you may have heard something called Office 365 groups. That allows you to create a group of individuals who now automatically have access to the same calendar, the same SharePoint site, maybe the same to-do list. But historically, you'd still have to go to Outlook for your calendar and SharePoint for your files and whatever to-do list for your tasks. And that's where Teams brought it all together. So by having all of your files and having the context of conversations in the same place really can change the way that we work. And then the third pillar is this idea of connected apps and experiences. If you've got a login to a third-party task management solution, and that's what you prefer to use, that's what your organization wants to use, you can still have that plugged into Teams. And that can be done on a team-by-team basis. Maybe you've got a project and then you only just work with that solution, but in your other teams, you don't. So you can mix and match how you present it. Every team automatically has that chats and files sort of tabs at the top, but you can then go and add other tabs. You could add an app in there. You could add websites that you use regularly and refer to in that way. You can actually bring data in from sort of news streams, things like that, and have it in the context of Teams to make it a personalized sort of one-stop shop for you, for your team, or for the work that you're doing. So let's switch back to my demo quickly. So, right. So still, whilst we're in Teams then, what I want to be able to do is to ask someone to go and work on a particular file with me. So I've got my other machine sort of set up to one side, and I can say here, well, hi Lynn, I want you to be able to sort of edit a file for me. Okay. Let me do it the other way. Hi. So now I can go in and add files, share them in that way. So I could go and attach a file to say, right, this guy, I want to send this file to myself to be able to go and edit all going on in that file. Now, if I go and open the file, and what I've actually done is I've opened it as myself on one screen. And again. Open it as my desktop as well. I've just realized that the label that I'd applied for the first demo is locking me out of it, which perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do. But what we can do with Word is that we can actually have multiple editors at the same time. So let me just go upload this file. So as long as the file exists within OneDrive or within SharePoint, then we can start to work collaboratively on files. We can have multiple editors on a file at the same time. I think this is where I was having trouble earlier. So if it doesn't work, I'll record a separate video clip. Yeah. MFA is a wonderful thing from a security perspective, but it's an absolute pain when you've got a demo to do and it's locking you out. So MFA is that something you know, so your username and password, and then something you have, so your phone, an authentication sort of notification or a text message in that way. But yeah, demo environment was not playing nice with me earlier. I'll record a separate clip of the multiple collaborators at the same time. So effectively, everybody can, a number of people can be editing the document, and you'll see who else is in that document. It locks paragraphs so that you can use it. So that everybody can still edit, rather than having that traditional file Explorer experience where Michael's got that document locked out. Do you want to be notified when it's available? So we can get rid of those situations. Now, the other scenario that obviously occurs quite regularly is that we need to organise meetings, and we might need to organise meetings with multiple people at the same time. So I've got a meeting with 3 people that I need to set up. And rather than saying, oh, when's everybody free? Can you do this? Can you do that? Or whatever it is, I'm going to use this find time option. So find time is a scheduling add-in where I can say, I'll set it to be London. I want a half-hour call. And now I can go through and say, well, I'm free on these times today, and then tomorrow, maybe I've got a little bit more availability in the morning. And so I can sort of put in the slots that I'm available. I can then also say, well, go and automatically schedule it when we come to a consensus. So if Michael, Alex, and Henrietta also say, I can do 10 o'clock tomorrow, I want it to automatically book that Teams meeting in this case, so that I don't have to do anything else. It will also go and block out my calendar so that I'm not actually accidentally booking in something whilst I'm waiting for this poll to actually take effect. So it just adds it directly into your email. You can then sort of say, oh, okay, I want to go and view the poll, view those details. So I'll let it go and send that email. Now, what happens over here, we can see that in my diary, I've got hold for employee discussion. So that's where Find Time has now sort of put those tentative appointments in place so that I'm not sort of double booking myself in that situation. And let's just go and accept one so you can see what that looks like. So anytime someone accepts, anytime someone goes and accepts an appointment, you'll then get another notification come back. And when all 3, in my case, when all 3 people have accepted it, okay, that's when it will automatically book it, and it will release the other time slots for me. Right, so let's view that. Okay. Now the other option that I talked about earlier for dealing with meetings is this idea of bookings. So if I right, no, we're going to run into trouble again. Right. 2 ticks. Oh, switch screens. Okay, so, sorry, try again, share. Okay, so this is bookings. You can get to it from the app launcher, and if you say more apps, you'll be able to get into bookings. And what I can do with bookings is basically set up this page where anybody can go and book it. Now, for this client appointment that I've set up, myself and Lynn are going to be available to be booked. So it could be a situation where you say, I need to talk to someone within the team. I don't mind who it is, I just need some sort of quick advice. So you can say, well, these people are going to be available to triage certain types of meeting requests. But I can then also go and look at different kinds of reviews. So I've got a paperwork review over here, and anybody can pick that up. I've got a virtual consultation appointment, and only Michael can sort of pick that up. So if I go and look at the page itself, as if I was embedding this in in my email signature to say, hey, go book a meeting with me here, we would have something that would look a bit like this. So I can then say, right, I want a paperwork review. I don't mind, so both people are available at the moment, but if I were to choose maybe an appointment that didn't work for somebody, they wouldn't appear at that time. So I want to be able to book an appointment with Lynn, and then you can customize what details you need from them. So what is it that you want to talk about in terms of this paper review, or it's automatically picking up who I am and filling in the information. But if this was externally facing, then your potential clients could fill in their own information and then say, right, I want to go and book it. So that then becomes an appointment within my diary, and I would see an email come through from bookings to explain that Mike made a request. So back on Lynn's Outlook, I can see here we've got a paperwork review. We're charging £500 an hour here, so it better be a good review. But it's then, because it's a Teams meeting, that's automatically booked, and everyone can go and join that meeting as appropriate. Okay. Right, let's just switch back to the deck to wrap things up a bit then. Okay. So yeah, if there's any other questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. If we don't answer them now, if I haven't answered them as we've gone through, we will get back to you with an answer.
I had a question from a client the other week, Mike, within the sort of legal sector. Just looking at my notes here, around bookings specifically, which just sort of triggered my mind. Can Microsoft Bookings integrate with Microsoft Teams and Outlook to automate scheduling and reduce admin time?
So yes, yeah, it does. So the way that you give people that link is either through, you could put it on a website to say, book an appointment with our team here. I have it in my email signature, I know, because you've used it, and you can then automatically book time that way. The calendar that it books it into is just your Exchange, your Outlook calendar, and that's also what Teams uses as well. So it all goes to one place. And yes, it is available as part of Business Premium. So unless it has been deactivated by your organization, you should be able to go to, if you go to portal.office.com or office365.com, you'll have the app launcher in the top left, and you can then say more applications and be able to see bookings there. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, that's been really, really good. Appreciate you juggling them screens around again, Mike. I always find it quite amazing the way that you do that. So appreciate your time on that. Thank you to everybody for attending, and thanks for your time this morning. The next webinar in the series is episode 2, which is at the bottom of the screen there, Modern Data Compliance in Professional Services. So we'll take a deep dive into the security side of the Microsoft applications and policies. So looking forward to seeing everyone then. Please share the invite with your colleagues as well if you can. We look forward to seeing everybody there. Like I said at the beginning, if anybody wants to book in some one-on-one time with myself or Mike, probably Mike more than me, then I can arrange that. So please get in touch on that email provided, or get in touch on the email follow-up that we send across. which will come shortly. So again, thank you very much. Any feedback would be welcome. So if you think there's anything that you want to see that we've not shown today, or perhaps in the near future, we'll sort of repeat that as we go through the series. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks again, everybody, for attending. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.